What's going on, everybody? If you're seeing this page, that means the official Torn Your Reign Reloaded merch store is now available. To get access to the store, make sure you go ahead and click the store tab on my YouTube channel. From there, you will be able to see all the merch that is available. We have mugs, shirts, hoodies, joggers, and so much more to come. All original designs made by yours truly, Torn Your Reign Reloaded. Now go ahead and get your merch today, and you can feel nothing in style. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Torn Your Reign Reloaded channel. If you are new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell twice to be notified whenever I go live or upload a new video. So as you can see, we are back yet again to talk about more shenanigans from an individual that myself and my guest have spoken about before. But before we go ahead and get into it, let me go ahead and introduce my guest, Blacklight Revelations 2. What's going on?
What's going on, bro? I appreciate you having me back on the channel. Shout out to your subscribers. Good to see everybody. I can't wait to see what this individual is talking about now.
Right. And you know what's so interesting? We talked about him before on the channel, but it was because of him. It was us reacting to a video he was reacting to from a year ago involving one half of the two individuals who are no longer monetized on this platform.
Right.
For some nonsense they were saying last year. But today we're solely focusing on just what this person is talking about here. And what we're going to be reacting to, of course, is Greg Foreman, aka the Black Conservative Perspective, on a video that he did in response to what happened down in Jacksonville 2 weeks ago. And not so much his response to what happened down in Jacksonville. I mean, he probably gonna say some off the wall stuff about that, but more so about how the people out there reacted when Ron the Snowflake and Mrs. the Snowflake came unannounced and uninvited to a vigil, and how the black people down there were booing him. So I'm curious to see what he has to say as it pertains to that. By the way, myself nor Rob has seen this video, so this is going to be fresh to me, and it's probably going to be new to all the people that are watching as well. And it's about 13 minutes and 48 seconds long. So God knows how long we're going to be here.
Will we?
Right. So let's go ahead and get started with this.
From our special guests, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is here. Thank you for doing this. I want to just say to the Councilwoman, don't worry about it. We've already been looking to identify funds to be able to help one, make sure there's adequate security for Edward Waters College. We are not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people.
Here comes this mammy. My God.
Right. I'm looking at the title of his video. He says black activists.
Yeah.
Black activists. I thought those were people of the community.
It is. It is. He called them black activists.
That's interesting.
These are people that live. Could it be black activists out there? Most likely.
Probably.
But the majority of those people that are out there are those who live in that community where this incident happened. But in order to make the video pop for his group or the people that's watching, he has to put certain things in the title in order to grab the attention of them in order to garner views.
Right. Now
So it's almost like a clickbaity type of thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now he says that they boo and cry racism over him calling Jacksonville shooter. What's the full title of the video?
Hold on, let me see. I might have to come out of the full screen. Black activists boo Ron DeSantis and cry racism over him calling Jacksonville mass shooter a scumbag.
That's interesting because the shooter declared himself a racist, and Ron DeSantis didn't address him as how he addressed himself and calls him a scumbag, which he is. But I think that based on his manifesto and based on who he deleted, I think he legitimized his own claim to himself being a being a racist. Yeah. So now why Ron DeSantis would not address him as a racist in a crowd full of black people is clearly Ron DeSantis doing some cultural trolling.
Exactly. Yeah, because you notice I don't know if you probably saw, but when he did, when he acknowledged it before he went down there, and I think he was still in Iowa, that's when he called him a scumbag. And the thing is, Greg Foreman, the people were not out there booing Ron DeSantis because he called him a scumbag. It's because of who Ron DeSantis is and the stuff that he puts out there, the propaganda. I'm like, you know what? I feel like we don't have to explain this because it's like talking to a brick wall with steel lining behind it.
Right.
I mean, let's think about all the stuff that Ron the Snowflake has implemented since he's been governor. Not even just the stuff that he's done this year, just in the month of July alone, with the, rewriting the history of slavery and implementing PragerU as teaching materials into their schools as if they're fact. Mind you, PragerU, in case y'all are not aware, is not accredited by any scholastic program whatsoever, which means it should not be in any school, no matter even if it's on a collegiate level.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. And again, Ron DeSantis doesn't seem to be doing anything to quote unquote correct or alter anybody else's history. There's not a lot of people that are out here really trying to alter European history. I just find it interesting that these people are so interested in attempting to alter ours.
Right.
Okay, listen, y'all. Let me tell you, we finna put parties aside. Because it ain't about parties today. A bullet don't know a party. So don't get me started.
That part got me. Like, really. I'm not laughing because it's funny, because it's not, but it's like, Rob, did you ever talk about her?
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had some, I think I had talked about her in the live stream that I did a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to rehash that, but for those of y'all who saw it, y'all can go back and listen to it.
Right.
Now let's get into I feel like we got to do breathing exercises before because I know he's going to say some off the wall shit. I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for it.
Guys, so we got to talk about a story that is a prime example of why race relations in this country will never, ever, ever get better. Okay, in my opinion, I'm just keeping it 100 with you, because there are a group of people who simply just don't want race relations to get better. No matter how hard people try to come together in moments where people should come together, they should unite across racial lines. There's just some group of people who enough will never be enough, and it doesn't matter, because this narrative of white supremacy and racism, systemic racism in this country, is too profitable, right? It's too lucrative, and they're never.
Who's making money off of it? I
was just getting ready to say that.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's making the actual money off of it. Take a look at his account on Social Blade, and take a look at ours.
Right. And look at who grifts so hard every day. And we're going to go over that, part towards the end. But notice everything that he just said could apply to the same people who ass he kiss every day.
Yeah.
He's saying it towards us.
It all applies to people like him.
It all applies to them.
And people, yeah, absolutely. Look at all of their channels. Matt Walsh, 2 million subscribers. Mark Dice, 1 million subscribers. Him, close to 500,000 subscribers. Officer Tatum, 2 million subscribers.
He's over 500,000.
Yeah.
Greg Foreman is at like 700-something thousand.
Oh, so he's approaching 1 million.
Oh, he's closing in. I say if he doesn't hit that $1 million mark this year, which probably I doubt he will, next year for sure.
Yeah.
If he continues to grip as hard as he can, then he's probably gonna hit that. He's gonna probably be at 1 million by this time next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at us. So there's money in this, and it's lucrative. Where?
Exactly.
And then he'll say, "Oh well, Patrice Colors. That's BLM. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing over here."
Right. I wonder if he's gonna bring up BLM in this video.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Let's go ahead.
I'm going to give up that money train. So therefore, it doesn't matter what you do, okay, particularly if you're white, to show some type of racial unity. It doesn't matter. You're still white, and therefore, it's not enough, right? Nothing will ever be enough, and that's what's happening here with Ron DeSantis.
Reparations will be enough.
Now Greg Foreman gonna speak against that, even though he probably could benefit. I don't know if he's FBA or not. Which I always said that if you are, like, you literally are going against what the government owes you, just the grift, like that's hustling backwards.
That's what they do.
But I hope Kid Gravity, and shout out to Kid Gravity. I hope Kid Gravity's I want to say premonition comes to light when he said after this election next year, a lot of these grifters, they're going to be falling off like, one at a time.
Yeah.
I hope that is actually true.
Yeah, I agree.
He showed up to a vigil after the horrible mass shooting that happened in Jacksonville at the hands of a gunman, a psychopath who happened to be white, and he went and shot up.
Now, people, how he said that. A gunman, a psychopath, a gunman who happened to be white. He didn't say a white supremacist or an anti-black racist. I always say pay attention to the words and the wording, because the way he put it and framed it is as if this guy was, as he said, a psychopath who was a gunman who happened to be white and just went in there and just casually shot random people just because he wanted to fire off some rounds that day. No, this guy had a whole manifesto that stated and laid out what his plans were, what he wanted to do. He said he hated black people. You saw the writings and markings on his firearms. It's pretty obvious who he was going after. He basically pulled a Peyton Gendron.
Basically.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if Greg Foreman said the same thing about Peyton Gendron last year.
I'm sure he did.
A Dollar General because allegedly he was targeting black people. Now, it is clear and obvious that this.
He said allegedly.
He said allegedly, even though it's not alleged.
Right. Like
it's it was never when it basically all came out and said it done. Like, what's so crazy? I didn't even really see lamestream media shockingly even use the words alleged that much as they usually would do when it came to this, because it's like you couldn't really, it was no place for you to say alleged. Like, it was really all laid out for you right then and there from the jump.
Right. Not only did the bullets hit the mark, there was then a manifesto to back that the bullets were seeking the marks that they hit. Exactly. But again, when it comes to Greg Foreman, his audience needs to hear that that's not what it was. His audience needs to hear that what their parents and grandparents talk about at the dinner table just doesn't apply in this situation. And that's just not the case. The case is that this guy declared everything that he said he was. And what you basically have here is Greg Foreman playing defense attorney for this guy.
Basically.
Motivated, at least based off what the narrative is right now. However, because Ron DeSantis called the shooter a scumbag and not a racist, the woke black activists are upset. Take a look.
There's the woke black activists. There it is.
So let me ask the question. That individual who did this was the first person that declared himself a white supremacist.
Exactly.
Does that make him woke as well because he's talking about white supremacy?
Right.
Remember, white supremacy allegedly doesn't exist, but he clearly exists. It wasn't the invisible man that shot these people.
Exactly. Like, he literally said it. Like, he said it out of his mouth in that manifesto that he hated black people. He wanted to kill black people. He had it. He had the markings right there on his gun. You know what's so interesting? Whenever there is a hate crime, an obvious hate crime that comes against black people, specifically black Americans, there always has to be these layer of facts that have to be laid out in layers to even get to the definitive truth that's obvious. With everybody else, if even 1 ounce of something happens, it's automatically deemed a hate crime. We looking at you, Asian American community.
Right.
And like you was talking in the live stream that you did earlier, and I had mentioned it in your comment section, watch, they're going to create some kind of an anti-immigrant hate crime bill.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I have, like, when you, like, at first that wasn't something that came to my mind, but then when you did that live stream, I was like, okay, now I see what they possibly have coming down the pipeline.
Oh yeah. And they'll try to use black people as the face of xenophobia
again.
Yeah.
And yesterday, Governor DeSantis in Florida facing audible boos at a Jacksonville vigil for the 3 victims. At the vigil, DeSantis called the gunman a scumbag. And Jeffrey Rumlin, a Jacksonville pastor who spoke after DeSantis, was very direct in his response. He said, at the end of the day, respectfully, Governor, he was not a scumbag. He was a racist. What's your response to that?
You know, for so many folks, the issue with that kind of language is that it places the onus on one individual and the actions of one individual, as opposed to a nationwide sickness of white supremacy in this country and the violence that it fuels. And so as long as he's a scumbag, or as long as there's a mental health issue, you don't have to engage with the idea that there are, co-conspirators online. There are co-conspirators who create legislation that divide other people. There are all these other forces that are contributing to this kind of violence. But as long as it's the act of one individual is just a scumbag, then you don't have to take the true issue head on.
And I just wanted to ask you what you were thinking in that moment as you stood there with the governor as he did his campaign photo op with the victims and the community that was suffering.
Joy, I don't think I can let you know what I was thinking, because if I did, I probably would not be reelected. Just the anger and frustration that I was feeling, though, and I just felt like he had a lot of audacity to come there. And after he lit the match and fanned the flames and emboldened the individual to look, at the end of the day, the governor does not care about Black people. He wiped out several minority access districts, Black access districts, congressional access districts in the state of Florida. Me and Representative McCurdy led a peaceful sit-in on the House floor to push back against him doing that unconstitutionally. I was banished to the basement for a while, in the basement with rats, because we have a vindictive governor. He punishes people, and that's what folks need to know, that he is hurting Floridians, and he cares more about becoming president. So can you imagine all the things that he's doing in the state of Florida, what he would do if he had the power of the president? Like,
what she just said right there is something that I've said many times on my channel. Look at what he's doing now as governor. Imagine if he had that power as president.
Yeah.
On a federal level, what he's doing just in one state, what he could do as president when he has the control of all 50.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for ramen noodles, because in my opinion, they're two peas in a rotten pie. They basically echo the same type of sentiments. They're just in two different bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's absolutely absurd. And it's important for us to go ahead and stop him in his tracks and really highlight the fact that folks are hurting.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sick of these people.
Oh, Greg, the sentiment is mutual when it comes to you.
So he's sick
of you.
What I find interesting is he's more sick of those quote unquote people who haven't deleted anybody than he is of the actual person who deleted people. But most of his content is about quote unquote people who are criminals and degenerates. So you're upset with people who are exercising their First Amendment right to voice their opinion on this, but you're not sick of the individual who actually deleted somebody.
Or the person that is partially responsible for why that rhetoric is so fleeting in that state. Like, let's keep in mind what happened the week after what happened in Jacksonville. You had a horde of neo-Nazi groups go down there. Literally like the next week. As a matter of fact, I talked about the leader of that group, the Blood Tribe, in a video like 2 weeks ago, Christopher Polas.
Yep.
You know, they got that whole compound in Maine. They've been to your state a couple times.
Yep. Yeah, we
Like
was talking about them in the Discord.
Yeah, I think they've made maybe 2 or 3 trips to your state because they was going there to antagonize people in the academy. Like, I guess they was having some kind of pride parade or something like that. And it's like every time they had one, they was right there to antagonize the people in the crowd. Yep. Now, mind you, that's desperation, because you talking about you travel from Maine to Ohio just to antagonize some people.
Yeah, that's wild.
So damn tired of these ungrateful. I'm not gonna curse. I'm not gonna cuss. Okay, I'm not gonna cuss. This is why you can't please these people. This is why it doesn't make any sense to bend over backwards to try to get these people to vote for you or to be a part of the conservative movement, because they're not going to. It doesn't matter.
Why would we want to be a part of that? Like, look at you. Like this. That's look at him.
And nobody's doing that.
He said don't bend over backwards to try to please these people. They're so ungrateful to try to be a part of the conservative movement. Why would we want to be a part of something where it has people like him, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, the Hodge twins, ABL to an extent, CJ Pearson, anybody attached to PragerU, Amala Ekpunobi? Like, do black people, like, with some common sense, would not want to be a part of that? I've said that black people typically, mindset wise, are conservative, but we are not going to be grifting and doing the tap dance every minute of every day.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, then we're the bad guy. That's why they would give people like Greg Foreman the title of quote unquote free thinker. I tell people, if a white person give you the title of free thinker, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, if a white person says that you're a free thinker, you're a slave.
What you do, they're gonna see you as an anti-black racist just because you're Republican, right? This is a damn.
Nobody sees anybody as an anti-black racist just because they're Republican. We see people as an anti-black racist because they're an anti-black racist. See, if you're a part of the black conservative movement that Greg Foreman is a part of, which God knows whatever that is, when somebody has a manifesto, self-declares himself a white supremacist, and deletes only black people at a murder scene, he calls that an alleged race crime. That's what that's what being a part of that quote unquote conservative movement is. So part of the conservative movement, as evidenced by Greg, as well as the previous video that you and I did, where the individual said he didn't want reality.
Yeah,
it shows that part of the conservative movement is to supersede reality with how you want to see the world or whatever's convenient to you. And most people don't want to be a part of that. As a matter of fact, these people are the people that consider themselves red pill, and allegedly red pill is supposed to be seeing reality as it is, dealing with uncomfortable truths. But unfortunately, Greg has an issue with comprehending and accepting unfortunate truths. An unfortunate truth for you, Greg, is that something that you say doesn't exist deleted black people in Florida. Deal with it.
All I can say is this: Greg Foreman and those who I mentioned, and even those who I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but I hope that what happened in Florida doesn't happen again. And then they start name dropping, saying, oh, I listen to people like the black conservative perspective. Because the worst thing you would want to have happen is if something like what happened in Jacksonville occurs and you get name dropped in a manifesto somewhere or some kind of document where they gave you a shout out.
Well, as we all know, white supremacy is one of the biggest diversity hires. White supremacy welcomes anybody who's willing to worship it and be compliant with it. And as evidenced, the white supremacists who deleted those people in Jacksonville mentioned Clarence Thomas. So he's not opposed to mentioning black people. So, Greg, you might get what you want. The next time this happens, somebody might mention you. They might actually go into place with a Greg Foreman mask on. You know what I'm saying? Who knows?
Right. Or some black conservative perspective merch.
Right.
Situation for Ron DeSantis. Guys, could you imagine what they would be saying if Ron DeSantis said, you know what, screw y'all, I'm not showing up?
They probably would be like, okay, because he wasn't invited in the first place. They like that would be actually expected from him. As a matter of fact, another reason why they got mad is because they knew whatever he was going to say out of his mouth was going to be a lie anyway. It was going to be fake.
I'm pretty sure
that's
Ron
the thing.
DeSantis' actions have already said screw black people.
Pretty much. And the thing is, Greg, you don't live in the state of Florida. Didn't you say he's in Tennessee?
I'm not sure. Last time I heard,
I don't know where. I don't know. For all we know, this man probably living on the moon somewhere.
I was going to say, I thought he lived at the bar.
Probably, but but seriously though, like, you don't live in the state of Florida, so you don't know what the people down in Florida are dealing with on a daily basis with him as governor. You only know from the perspective of what you see on TV or in videos.
Right.
You're not there as a resident to know what they are doing down or what's going on down in that state.
Right.
So it's very easy for him to come at it from this way. Very easy for him to do that because he's not there.
Right.
I'm not going to be there. Could you imagine what they'd be saying? Oh, well, Ron DeSantis doesn't care about black people. Ron DeSantis.
What? We already know that. I mean, that's obvious. Like you would literally be pointing out the obvious.
And the thing is that if that's what people observe from his actions, there's nothing wrong with him saying that. So who cares what people can imagine? If that's what he's doing, if the evidence shows that he doesn't care about black people, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with anybody reiterating that verbally.
And you know what Greg just did? He probably didn't even notice that he did. Is that he basically is telling those black people down there, your free speech don't mean shit. F you thinking you have rights to the First Amendment.
Yeah,
because you know, of course, because you know the First Amendment that only applies to PC,
right? And remember,
and as many
like him, Right. And remember, as many times as he said he can't stand these people, he can't stand these people who did not delete anybody. He has yet to say in this video that he has an issue with this individual that deleted these 3 people. So Greg Foreman is more in favor of an individual that deletes 3 black people that he doesn't have to listen to, and than he is in favor of black people who are able to utilize their First Amendment right, which is something that is also in line with white conservative values that he is a part of. Free speech for me, but no free speech for thee. You know what I'm saying?
And notice something else. We are almost 6.5 minutes into this video, and not one time did Greg Foreman say RIP to the victims, or I offer my condolences to the family and loved ones of those who lost loved ones in that well, we know he ain't gonna say anti-black in that massacre. He didn't even say I hope the woman that did survive, because it was a woman there who did survive, gets the therapy and help that she needs. None of that. He went straight into black activist boo Ron DeSantis, so on and so forth.
Check this out. The black conservatives always ask the question, well, if black lives really matter, well, if black lives matter more to black conservatives as much as they talk about abortions, why is it that in any video that black conservatives ever do regarding a crime such as this or the Buffalo race massacre, they never say rest in peace or condolences to the victim?
They don't.
That is, if black lives matter to black conservatives more than they matter to Black Lives Matter. These people don't want none.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, he didn't even start the video off like that, and the fact that he's going right into his menstrual rant, because that's really what it is, lets me know he's not going to mention it at all throughout the rest of this video. And if he does, it won't be genuine. It's going to be like an afterthought, like, oh, I forgot to say this.
Facts. And shout out to the blue line. Let's just take a quick guess. What do you guys think that Greg's blood alcohol level is right now?
So you're saying that he's not sober right now?
No.
I'll never forget that one time he came on and did a video. It's like, you just left the bar and you literally came on here to grift and you slurring your words. I forgot what video that was that I think it was a video that you may have reacted to.
Might have. He's so ridiculous.
DeSantis didn't show up because he hates black people. They be saying all types of crazy stuff if he didn't show up. So when he does show up and he does show leadership in that situation, right, which is what you're asking him to do. Oh, well, Ron DeSantis doesn't like black people. Ron DeSantis hates black people. So again, no matter what he does, he hates black people. That's what you're telling me, right? That's what you're doing. Because the man showed up. He pledged $1 million to the HBCU that was targeted, $100K to the families. He's doing everything that you can ask him to do.
That's called damage control.
Right.
Do you think he really wanted to donate that money? And it's called a tax write-off too.
Let's talk about how it's Ron DeSantis' responsibility to keep the citizens of Florida safe. Did he do that with 3 dead people out here as a result of his rhetoric?
He didn't. And here's the thing. This could not have happened at a worse time because he's on a presidential run. You don't think that might come up in another debate?
Right.
Directly towards him? Like, that could, like, he probably was sitting in while he was on the campaign trail saying to himself, not so much, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Those poor individuals, I don't know what's going on and everything, but let me go down there and show genuine concern. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, Greg Foreman, this is my perspective. He's probably sitting here saying to himself, God damn, why did this have to happen while I'm in the middle of a presidential run?
That's exactly what he said.
And then on top of that, look at what came into his state the following week.
And then into his front yard.
Oh, shout out to the woke tree. Shout out to the woke tree. And by the way, that can have happened at the worst time too. Because what is it? I think you might know a little bit more about it, about those insurance companies down there in Florida. Some of them pulled out.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you didn't know about that?
No, but I'll tell you what, though, in those states where hurricanes come, it's really hard to insure for floods and natural disasters.
Yeah.
Was governor, despite being a so-called racist, because if he was a racist, if he was a white supremacist, he wouldn't be there. But in exchange for that, he gets criticized because
he said that if he was a white supremacist, he wouldn't be there. White people who were white supremacists surrounded themselves with black people on their plantations. Shut up, Greg.
Right.
I want to get on. I want to get on your channel in front of your audience and tell you shut up, and you actually do it because you would after I just said that.
You said shut up, Greg. I thought of shut up, Meg from Family Guy. The irony is that they rhyme too.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Is that a fact? Is that a fact that white people who owned plantations and had a bunch of slaves surrounded themselves with black people? What about white people that went to Africa to exploit Africa? Did they not surround themselves with a bunch of black people?
Yeah, of course. They were the minority.
Yeah. So you surrounding yourself or who you put yourself in proximity of has no impact on how you feel about those people.
Right.
Oh, the shooter scumbag. He didn't say the shooter was a racist. As if calling the shooter a racist, stating the obvious, is actually going to bring any of the victims back to life. It's not going to bring any of the victims back to life.
Nobody asked the victims to come back to life. People asked the victims to be protected. And Ron DeSantis passing policies and saying the things that he does and being a student of Manhattan Institute did not contribute to keeping those victims safe, which would have ultimately either helped them to stay alive or at least put a barrier between them and the shooter. That's what people are asking Ron DeSantis to do. Only Christians expect people to come back to life, like Lazarus and Jesus Christ. Those people who were down there, all they expected was just a reasonable amount of protection, Greg.
Oh, it's a photo op for his campaign. He's only doing it for his campaign. So again, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he doesn't show up, he hates black people, right?
Well, here's the thing. He probably was doing this for a photo op. Now that you bring it up, I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised. Unfortunately, it doesn't look. It wouldn't, in my opinion, it wouldn't work. But like I said, this is Greg saying that the black people down there should just be grateful that he even showed up.
Right.
They didn't even ask him to be there. I don't know if you picked this up, Rob, or not, but in the beginning, when he was playing the clip of the person introducing him, did you notice that the person introducing him didn't even have any enthusiasm in his voice? Like he was like, ladies and gentlemen, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Like he had no enthusiasm at all in his tone of voice to introduce him. He probably was sick. He had to get up there and introduce him.
Right. He was basically like,
he was like, nigga, he was like, dude, just get up here and whatever.
Right. This dude showed up. Here go to Mike. You got 10 minutes. Let's go.
If he does show up, then he still hates black people. He showed up because of a photo op, not because he actually cares about the families or the victims that lost their lives in this incident. He doesn't really care about his own people. So at this point, what is the point of showing up? No, I mean, serious question. Like, what is the point of giving a damn about black people losing their lives if you are a Republican or a conservative? What is the incentive? And
he keeps going back to that thing of being a conservative or a Republican. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that Ron the Snowflake is just a trash human being, no matter what party he's affiliated with. He could have been a Democrat and still been trash and doing the same thing.
I want to make
sure they would have probably still booed him.
Right. And I want to make sure that people like him and his audience understand this. I don't care what you think about my life. You're not going to be at my funeral anyway. But if you want to keep yours intact, stay out of my way and out of my face.
When you show up, all they're going to do is tell you that you hate black people and that you're not going far enough, even though you have pledged financial support. You're not going far enough because you're not calling the shooter a racist. What's the point? He might as well skip it, right? He might as well not show up the same way Joe Biden doesn't show up to East Palestine. The same way that Joe Biden didn't show up to the Nashville Christian School when, you had Christians that were murdered by a transgender shooter.
If I'm not mistaken, when it comes to East Palestine, it was Trump who put the policies into place that decreased the stringency on the train checking system, the rail checking system, and the engineering checking systems that caused some of those that caused some of those malfunctions in the train that caused the derailment in East Palestine.
Yeah, you probably know a little bit more about that than I do.
Yeah, shout out to vinyl chloride. But anyway,
what? Same way Biden never showed up when they were mass shooting hate crimes committed against whites, in which you had a black person going on a rampage, killing and hunting down white people because they're white.
I know what he's talking about. He's talking about that Christmas Day parade.
And what was that in Wisconsin where that dude drove?
Yeah, when he ran through all over those all those white people at that parade, at that Christmas Day parade. I remember that.
Yeah,
so that's exactly what he's talking about.
Is that guy in jail? Has he been sentenced?
I believe so.
Well, I don't understand what else was supposed to be done with him? How many black people didn't do that and were deleted by white people's protectors, aka law enforcement?
Right. And I don't know, they mean to do this as a numbers game, but he picked one incident out of how many they've done just in the last, let's say in the last 5 years.
Let's look at FBI's crime statistics and see who's represented disproportionately for committing hate crimes, since they like FBI crime statistics.
Right. And like I said, whenever they do something or whenever something happens, look at the time length it takes for some to react and versus those who react slower or slowly.
Mm-hmm. And also another thing too, the difference is there was nobody cheering that guy that did that in Wisconsin.
No, we weren't. Like, black people were not cheering that guy on for what he did. We said like that was messed up what he did. Like, we weren't saying, yay, we glad you did what you did. Like, no, we weren't doing that. However,
when it comes to
when it came to this situation, you had a lot of PC individuals and probably even those of Greg Foreman's ilk saying, what about black on black crime? You know, this is messed up, but Chicago, this was wrong, but Baltimore. And we saw that actually happen in that news clip on Fox News where you had those 3 black guys up there and them 2 old niggas.
But since nobody did, I mean, that dude did drive through all those white families like a bowling ball through a bunch of bowling pins. And I mean, nobody brought up the familicide rates because, I mean, all those white people out there with their white families. I mean, you know, how often does a car delete white families in opposed to white fathers deleting white families? But I mean, nobody talked about that. But since that's what we're doing, hopefully nothing like that ever happens again. But if it does, I'll be sure to make sure I frame my content in that way.
Yeah, since they want to do that tit for tat thing. And that's why you always tell black people they need to embrace villainy. All you got to do is pay attention to a lot of the talking points that they do and then remix it and throw it back at them. And like I said, it is so easy and refreshing to do.
Easy work.
It's very easy to do. Very
easy work. They don't know. They don't have a rebuttal for it. They don't know what to say. It's nothing. It's outrage, and it's great to enjoy. And the thing is that nobody would do that if those people didn't come at us with the energy that they come at us. But if they keep coming with that energy that they coming at us with, they're gonna get it returned right back to them. It just is what it is.
Their brains out because they're white. Biden didn't show up. No Democrats showed up. So again, in this situation, why I'm serious. Why should any Republican or conservative show up in a situation like this? If this is how you're going to get treated, if this is how people show appreciation for a governor stepping up and showing leadership, then again, why show up at all? I guess you can make a moral argument that regardless of how they feel, regardless of how they treat you, you should show up anyways because it's the right thing to do. But hey, in my opinion, I don't see this as any different than black people who get killed every single day in mass shootings by the black folks.
It is. I was waiting on it. I knew it was coming. What did I just say?
Right.
Literally, it hasn't even been a minute since I said he was going to bring it up.
Right. Well, and you know, the type of content that I do, especially on my Crimecast channel, when I saw that thing that went down in Wisconsin, I mean, you know, in context of how many white fathers delete, you know, white families, I mean, that was what I was focused on. I mean, how often does a car actually go through a crowd of white people? How often does a white father actually go through his own family? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, this could easily be done for anything.
You know what's so crazy now that you bring that up? You know, on talking about that, you know, what that guy did, which was still messed up, and him running through that crowd of people at that parade, we could have easily took it back to 2017 in Charlottesville when that man ran through that crowd of people and killed that woman, Heather Heyer, who was a white woman. So would that be seen as white on white crime or not?
Right.
And he's, of course, he got a life sentence, which was, you know, clearly the right thing to do.
Right. It was the right thing to do, but it's clearly more than he would have got if he had ran over a black person.
Yeah. Yeah, because like others that got injured, he injured like a bunch of people, but she was the one that died.
Right.
Difference. Why show up to this one if you ain't showing up to all those other ones? Because at the end of the day, it's all political. Because all of these so-called black activists, they don't give a damn about black lives.
How many black, as he's talking about, how many black quote unquote mass shootings have there been? Black manifestos, anti-black.
Right. I can only think of one.
Right. Now, if somebody like Greg Foreman was the one behind the trigger, I'm sure there'd be a manifesto.
I bet that thing might have a whole bunch of grammatical errors. Like, you be trying to read, like that thing would have to go through a scanner to understand what the hell is being said.
I bet you it would smell like Jägermeister too.
about Black Lives. All this is political film. It's a photo op for them. Because I guarantee you, in that same city, Jacksonville, I guarantee you have multiple mass shootings of black people that happen regularly, and none of them care because it's being done by a black person.
Hey, Greg.
Person.
Hey, Greg, you want to know something else that happened in Jacksonville? There was a black race incident incited by your buddies called Axe Handle Saturday. A history of race incidents that went on in Florida, like Rosewood. You know what I'm saying? So this kind of pattern of things happening in Florida is part of Florida's culture. Florida was actually a state that was purchased from the Spanish in order to deter runaway slaves. Greg, if you knew anything about your history, just a small amount, nobody's asking you to be a fist pumper, but just a small self-respecting amount, then you would understand. But you don't, because you don't care about history. You care about everybody else's history instead of caring about your own and yourself. There was a guy like you, Greg, and his name was Jonathan Price. What happened to that dude, Torian?
Oh yeah, I forgot all about him until you. I did. I forgot all about him until you. I had to think about like Jonathan Price. Oh, I was like, oh yeah. He has gone to the great beyond, or maybe the great below. I don't know, depending on what direction those in the other realm decide to pull him in. But yeah, he had the same thought process as you, Greg Foreman. The same exact thought process. And guess what? When he met his end at the same people who asses he kissed so much, because that's how it happened. He didn't die of natural causes. He was deleted by the police. They pulled up them receipts about the stuff he said about black people, and black people washed their hands of it like literally the immediate second they learned of his mindset. And it was really soon after he got taken out. So there was no grieving period at all when it came to Jonathan Price. Just like if something, was to fall upon you, there would be no grieving period from us.
I think Greg Foreman should take a dive into Lake Lanier. How you think that would turn out?
Something tells me he may not know much about Lake Lanier. He would actually do it.
Yeah, he should. Do it. Go ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that works out.
It was something else I had wanted to say about the point he had just made. Let me run it back right quick so I can see if I can get my point back.
Because all of these so-called black activists, they don't give a damn about black lives. They don't give one damn about black lives. All this is political film. It's a photo op for them. Because I guarantee you, in that same city, Jacksonville, I guarantee you have multiple mass shootings of black people that happen regularly.
Wasn't that Mammy, the Mammy who tried to get the crowd under control? Wasn't she a black Democrat?
Yep.
Just saying. So she clearly wanted Ron DeSantis to be able to speak and be heard. But what I find fascinating is, as much as I disagree with Ron DeSantis and as much as I agree with the crowd who was booing him, there was one individual who is a Democrat, who is actually indeed an activist because she's a councilwoman, that did try to help facilitate Ron DeSantis's speech. And guess who Greg Foreman has not mentioned one time in this video?
Her. And I thought he was going to do it too. Like he incorporated her piece into this video, into the clip before he began to talk. So and now that you mention that, I'm actually, I'm not shocked or surprised, but it is what it is that he did not mention her yet. We're 9 minutes and 49 seconds into a 13-minute and 48-second video, and he didn't once mention her name or her presence, even though he left it in the clip and you could clearly hear her talking.
Right. Now, here's the thing, right? And we're going to use her, bro. We're going to use her. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what we do. You know what I'm saying? We take what these people say and show everybody how stupid they are. Greg Foreman said that those people weren't grateful, right?
Yeah.
Didn't that woman say she wanted everybody to be quiet because she was grateful for Ron DeSantis's gifts? That he brought?
She said if you wanted to bring gifts, then let him bring gifts or something, like some silly mess that she said.
Something silly, something dumb. But regardless of whether it was silly or dumb, it goes against what Greg Foreman is saying here. So the thing is that as we saw this, and this was even receipts that Greg put in the video, there were individuals who were appreciative of Ron DeSantis there, and Greg Foreman said that nobody there was appreciative of it.
Yeah, because even after she had spoken, like, quote unquote, calm the crowd down, there was some people there that began to clap.
Yeah. So now the thing is, right? She actually redirected the crowd to do exactly what Greg Foreman wanted them to do, and they did. Like you said, they clapped. So now Greg is still outraged. So now, do I agree with what the crowd did? No. Do I agree with what that woman said or how she handled the crowd? No. However, I'm glad that she did what she did because she gave us more evidence to show that Greg Foreman is just a flat out liar. What's the purpose of this video?
To garner views and as much money as he can.
Yeah.
Because I think this video got like over 100,000 views plus.
And what's interesting about this is that everything that he says, he debunks his own talking points by the receipts that he put in the video. The people in his comment section watched the entire video, and I guarantee you no one in the comment section timestamped everything that happened in the video that debunks anything that he said.
Oh, I'm almost certain that they didn't. I mean, we don't even have to look at the comment section to know that.
Right.
And none of them care because it's being done by a black person. The same way they don't care about the mass shootings that happen every weekend in Chicago. There's literally a mass.
There it is, Chicago. There's Chicago. And it's funny he's mentioned Chicago because look what's going on with them south of the Bordarians in Chicago, which, by the way, Greg Foreman, are you going to talk about that? The level of crime that's going on in Chicago that's being done by them? I bet you he won't. I bet he and all of those over there are not going to talk about that. You know, they like to talk about black people all the time, but let's see if y'all going to do a series of video on the south of the Bordarian brown people that's coming over here committing all these crimes now, like in New York and in Chicago. I bet you that he won't do it. He most likely won't.
Now check this out, right? Greg Foreman just said that black people don't talk about this stuff, right?
What's going on right now?
look, shout out to my fellow coons. There's always black people talking about this. You got Candace Owens and Greg Foreman, and you got what's his name, Officer Tatum. There's always black people talking about stuff that's going on with black people. So what's Greg Foreman talking about? You know what I'm saying? So now like everybody's got their use. Right now, when it comes to white people, there's no white people going in on white degeneracy. But shout out to the coons who always allow us their content to debunk when idiots like him say that black people aren't talking about this. Man, just go look at Greg Foreman's and Officer Tatum's front page. They're always talking about something that black people do. Show me that on white people's page.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you said that because when we done with this video, we're gonna go and look at Greg Foreman's front page.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be like, oh my god, it's gonna be just as cringe as what he's talking about right here.
Right. And for purposes of saying that black people don't talk about this kind of stuff, for those purposes and those purposes only, we're claiming y'all. And then for everything else, y'all can just go ahead and stay where y'all at. But for that purpose, where you just sit there and say that black people don't talk about this stuff, we're about to use your own page as evidence to debunk you.
Right. Exactly.
Every weekend in Chicago, but the media doesn't give a damn because they're being committed by black people. They don't care. So again, it's all political. They only care because, oh, well, there's a racial angle to it. This is time to go out here and to shuck and jive for virtue signaling points and to talk about how white supremacy is such a danger in this country. Even though
it's funny he said shuck and jive. That's what he does every day.
Yeah. Yeah, he's literally
projecting what he does onto us.
Yeah. Facts.
This is nothing but pure projection.
Physically speaking, as a black person, you are much more likely to be killed by a black person than a white person. Okay?
So can we also say if you're a white person, you're most likely to be killed by another white person? If you are an Asian person, you're most likely to be killed by another Asian person, which, by the way, did Greg Foreman talk about what happened in California earlier this year with those two mass shootings that involved those two Asian men? I doubt he did it. But I know he probably had all the smoke for Tyree Nichols because that happened around the same time.
Right.
I bet he did. And I can only imagine what nonsense and filth he said with that video, probably on the same scope or the same range as Fakem did, which got him chewed out by his audience.
Right. And let's just say that the likelihood argument holds some weight somehow. What does that have to do with convictions and whether you're guilty of a crime or not?
Right.
Here's the bottom line. The guy killed those 3 black people. He admitted that he did it in a racist motivated way, and he's guilty of it. You saying that somebody's more or less likely to be harmed by somebody has nothing to do with the actual guilt that is applied to the individual who's guilty of the crime as well as the individuals who are facilitating those crimes, which is Ron DeSantis and all of your constituents.
As a white person, you are statistically more likely to be killed by a black person than a black person is to be killed by a white person. But yet they keep telling us that, oh, white supremacy is the problem. That's not the problem. Just because you have a one-off situation where you have a white person who's a lunatic who decides to kill black people and his motivations more than likely were racist, okay?
It's not a one-off. It's not a one-off situation. And if it's a one-off situation, why are there a history of race massacres in Florida, Greg?
And on top of that, white supremacy is more than just what Ryan Palmeter did going in that Dollar General and killing 3 black people. One of them got killed in her car. She either just got out of the store or was getting ready to go in the store. It's more than just that. But that just shows you how limited his level of thinking is. That he thinks that white supremacy is just conducive to a mass shooting or someone calling you the N-word or anything like that. It's a whole system. As a matter of fact, what Ryan Palmeter did was actually surface level of white supremacy. Very surface level. When you get to the core of it, when you get to the core, it's even worse than what he did.
Facts.
Because any one of them, that's easy. That's easy work. Any one of them can go and get a gun, put something on it, and then go spray up a bunch of black people wherever they're at.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yep.
But when you have a system in place, a whole system in place, when you think of the racial wealth gap, that's part of that core. When you think about black people can't get loans, that's part of the core. Redlining, core. Jim Crow, core.
Artificial intelligence and algorithms,
core.
Yep.
What he did, what Dylan Roof did, as unfortunate and sad as that was, that's surface level.
Yeah.
That's very surface level because it's very easy. But when you get to the examples that I and Rob just gave, that's when you get to the core of what white supremacy is. And there's so many more that can be listed.
Yep.
But like I said, he only limits it to, a mass shooting. That's as far as his scope goes when it comes to white supremacy. That's really how many of them think. Just like when it comes to PC individuals, they think that, theirs is if someone calls you the N-word, that's as far as it goes. No, that's just someone just being a racist.
Well, they know. They just don't.
They know. They just like to pretend like they like to play dumb.
Yeah, they like to minimize what they do.
Hey, and Greg, a little tidbit, since you want to talk about so-called black on black crime so much, that could be seen as a core of white supremacy as well. I'll let him hang his hat on that one. Yeah, if he ever takes it off.
Yeah, especially when you correlate the black on black alleged crime to the amount of poverty. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's called proximity crime. Everyone who lives around everybody is going to, when they're dealing with a lot of people who they're around, it's going to be there. That's why I said he's not going to talk about white on white crime or Asian on Asian crime or SOB. I'm just shortening it, SOB on SOB crime, even though it is there.
Right. Or like we were talking about in that stream that I did this morning, migrant on migrant crime.
Exactly. Which is a subset of SOB on SOB. I mean, really, when you think about it, yeah, they was going at it with each other inside of that shelter.
Yep.
So when people try to say, black on black crime all the time, I'm just like, it's just like one of those tired arguments because it's like it's proximity crime, but they always have to make it like literally give a whole label of it to just black people when that's simply just not the case.
Facts.
That is not an indictment on all white people. That's not a testament. That's not evidence that, white supremacy is such a big problem in this country because this happens so few and far between. Doesn't happen a lot. Again, I can name just as many incidents that have happened where we've had hate crimes done against whites.
Greg Foreman can't even name one race massacre. So he doesn't even know how often this happens because it's not something that he pays attention to for his content.
Yeah, I bet you if you was to ask Greg Foreman to name 5 massacres that was not Rosewood or Tulsa, because those are the 2 that are more popular, he couldn't name 5 of them.
No. He would say that they didn't happen and that it was woke propaganda.
Exactly. Let me run it back because it was something else he said that I might have run on to respond to.
This happens so few and far between. Doesn't happen a lot. Again, I can name just as many incidents that have happened where we've had hate crimes done against whites.
Name them. And name the group that did it to them.
White people.
He said he could name as many hate crimes against white people. I want him to name them, but I bet you he won't name them.
Not according to the same FBI statistics that say black people commit 13% of the crime, or 13% of the population and commit 55% of the crime. According to those FBI statistics with the table where that statistic comes from, that shows that white people commit the majority of hate crimes. So there's no possible way that Greg can show more hate crime incidents of black people committing hate crimes against white people than white people committing hate crimes against black people and everybody else, including other white people interethnically.
Right. Because you know the other one that they've been trying to push lately, well, not so much lately, but it's kind of been out there already, where they're, you know, they do the usual 13% of the population, 50%. Of course, they've increased that 50%, but they keep that 13 where it's at. But they also try to do black people at 13% of the population, and they commit like 60% of the intra-racial crime or interracial crimes.
Yeah, that's not
so. Now they're trying to say that, oh, we're the ones going out there committing all the hate crimes against all these other groups, including PC.
Now, when they talk about these statistics and gathering the information, research and data gathering has to be taken into consideration. What does CIA say about the FBI and about all law enforcement, who they've been infiltrated with?
Those dub S's.
So is it possible to say that those statistics may not be accurate based on the reporting requirements?
Yeah, and there was even some out of the NYPD. I think they actually did a whole documentary on it, where it was some black cops on the NYPD who was basically blowing the whistle, well, being whistleblowers about the unethical practices that was going on inside that department, which is one of the main reasons why the NYPD is in my top 5 most corrupt police departments in America.
Yeah, facts.
Mass shootings committed against whites because of race. So don't sit and try to tell me.
Well, hold on. Let's dwell on that one for a second. He said mass shootings that's committed against whites. Who was the one holding the gun? That's the thing.
Well, let's talk about that. Mass shootings committed by whites because of race. How many synagogues have gotten shot up this year?
Remember the one in Pittsburgh a couple of years back in 2018? That was a white man that did that.
Yeah, and white people say that those people that go to synagogues are a different race. So that would be white people, according to their own rhetoric, shooting up people based on race, according to white people. Not necessarily according to my definition, but according to the QAnon morons like Greg.
Or what about what happened in Sandy Hook back in 2012, I believe it was?
Now, according to people like Greg and Alex Jones and all that, they anytime anybody does something like that, they say it's crisis actors.
Yeah, or a psyop or some kind. And that's another comment I saw quite a bit when it came to this shooting, in Jacksonville, is they kept trying to say, oh, this is a psyop.
Right.
So they're in so much denial that they cannot bring themselves to say that it was a anti-black massacre, that they have now dwelled and climbed down into the depths of saying it's a psyop.
I'll entertain that it's a psyop. Sure, why not? It's a psyop. Let's just say it's a psyop. Who does the psyops? Who's responsible for MK Ultra? Wouldn't that be the CIA and the FBI? Didn't we just talk about the infiltration of who infiltrated all of law enforcement? So who would they be trying to psychologically operate on? The same people that have always been psychologically operated on. Black people.
Right.
So sure, we'll entertain the fact that it's a psyop as long as we are very clear on who's being targeted. Just like how when we talk about elites, yeah, sure, we can call these people elites as long as we're clear that they're white supremacist elites.
Yeah.
That, oh, well, this only happens to black people. No, it happens to everybody. Everybody at some point has been targeted because of their race. It happens. So when you come out here and you talk about white supremacy this, white supremacy that, demonize white people, you're just creating more division in this country. You're not bringing people together.
Notice how it's never about
being united.
And
only your name.
And notice how when it comes to dealing with white supremacy, it's never about correcting the white supremacist behavior. It's always about, if you call it out, it's divisive. How about a remedy for it?
Or you being woke. Don't forget that one.
Right. How about a remedy for it?
Yeah. That's like literally putting a Band-Aid over a flesh wound.
Yeah. If you go to the doctor and you have a cold, but you're dying of cancer, if you keep talking about cancer, you're just being a downer. You're just being a downer. Like, this is dumb.
always having to racialize everything is not bringing people together. It's dividing.
If that's the case, then why did the Asian American community get an anti-Asian hate crime bill then?
If racializing people is just making things worse, then why don't the people who racialized the country in 1776 reverse all of that racializing that they did?
Because if they did, white supremacy goes bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg can't grift no more.
Right.
It's funny he says that. Why is there so much divide? Greg, all of your content is literally monetary, getting a monetary gain off of it. So I don't know why he's complaining. He's literally benefiting from the same things that he's quote unquote complaining about in this video.
Greg is a race hustler.
The double speak is real with him.
It's real with him. It's real with them. You know what I'm saying? Greg is a race hustler.
Yeah.
Greg is also a race baiter.
And again, the irony here, the crazy part is that it doesn't matter if he would have came out here and said everything they wanted him to say. If he would have came out and called this guy white supremacist, said he was a racist, said this, said that. If he would have said all that, it doesn't matter. They still would say, oh, well, you just said that because you thought that's what we wanted to hear.
And here's the thing. It's not only black people that have an issue with Ron the Snowflake and the stuff that he's done. It's other groups there as well. It's just because of who he loves to target the most, which is black people. That's, of course, the people that's going to push back naturally. But black people aren't the only one that have an issue with him. It's even other white people that got a problem with him.
Yep.
Even on the same spectrum.
Yep, that's facts.
He don't really mean it. So yeah, maybe he's better off just not even showing up, right? Maybe he's better off just not giving a damn about these people, right?
He already doesn't. Like, how many times is he going to say that? He said it like 5 times. We know he doesn't care. Like I said, he probably didn't even want to go down there, but because he's governor and he's doing a presidential run, it looks good for him,
right,
to be there. If it was no other, I bet you if this guy probably wasn't even on a presidential run, he most likely would not have gone. Right. But because he's on the campaign trail, it looks good for his campaign. That's why I hope in the next debate they bring this up.
Absolutely.
And of course, if they do, Greg Foreman going to come back on here and he going to rant again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the incentive structure that they're creating. Again, these people are responsible for the most racism in this country. I'm so serious. These people creating so much racism and hate and vitriol in this country. It's ridiculous.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Rob, did you catch that?
Mm-hmm.
So, Greg, are you trying to tell me the people that booed or the people like the ones who booed the snowflake are the ones that's creating racism and the divide? Rob, please tell me like I'm hearing that correctly.
Is that what hearing it correctly? That's what he said.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that my ears were clear. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't reaching with this one.
Mm-mm. And then they want to deflect and try to blame everybody else for it when it's like, no, you people are the ones that are responsible for a lot of the hatred. You really are.
He's saying you people like he ain't black his damn self. Like I know, like I don't know why it took me to damn near the end of the video to realize that he's doing that. But yeah, he's saying you people, these people, you people, like he's literally drawn a line in the sand and he's completely divided himself from us. Well, you know what, Greg? Like that line in the sand is not enough. We need to see, like, put you on another continent or something. You know what? Speaking of lines in the sand, I know a perfect place to send you. The North Sentinel Islands. Right. There's a lot of sand out there. It's, right there in the middle of the water. It's, nice and breezy and whatnot. And it's some people that live there, so you won't be by yourself.
I'm telling you, Lake Lanier.
It's some sand there too. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Ron DeSantis. I really do. I mean, the guy is a great governor, especially when it comes to natural disasters and emergencies. He's done an amazing job leading Florida through that. He's done some great things for that state. And here we have him being torn down over some silly stuff like this.
So black people booing him because of the stuff that he's implemented after what happened where a PC individual massacred 3 people is silly.
Right.
I want the people who are out there listening to this to really grasp what Greg Foreman is saying.
I want to interview Greg Foreman's father and mother.
And that's another thing. Have you noticed that when it comes to people like him, we don't know who their parents are?
Mm-mm.
We've been knowing about CJ Pearson, who is like the oldest black 20-year-old I've ever seen in my life, since he was 12 years old, and we still don't know who his parents are. You know,
Right.
remember when he first came onto the scene, one of the things people was asking was where his parents at. He was
Yeah,
12 years old at the
right.
time. Like, he was like, where are your parents at? We never knew, and we still don't know who his parents are, but he got all this smoke for, he's another PragerU plant.
Yep.
You know how I feel about black people who are attached to PragerU.
Right.
Because again, these people are not interested in any type of racial unity. They're not interested in coming together and trying to move past. No, they're not. Their sole interest is to stir up as much racial hatred as possible so that they can continue to remain relevant. As long as
Everything he just said right there is pertaining to people like Ryan Palmeter, who actually said he hated black people and then proceeded to delete 3 black people.
All you gotta do is just let these people just talk. That's it.
If anything, it's a lot of black people who want to be around them.
Yeah, there are.
Much to a lot of our dismay, but it's a lot of black people that, it's like they're more welcoming.
Yeah, there's a lot of black people that are very welcoming. You know what I'm saying? There's just not really what he's talking about is not an accurate representation.
It really isn't.
they're victims, as long as white supremacy is a problem, right, in their world, that's how they maintain their relevance and power. And that's what we have here, guys.
What power do we have?
Right.
This last minute, he just rambling at this point. I mean, he was babbling the whole time, but now he's just rambling.
Right. It's just gaslighting, bro. All he does is
it really is. Like he's not even gaslighting us. He's gaslighting his audience, which we all know his audience is about as white as that board behind him.
Yeah.
Or that
not
wall,
very
I should
smart.
say.
Not very smart.
Yeah.
Guys, this is why the race conversation is never going anywhere. It's a circular conversation.
And you're glad it's not going anywhere, because if it did go somewhere, how are you going to benefit?
Right.
Imagine that a grifter complaining about the thing he's grifting on.
Right. Everybody that Greg Foreman calls a grifter does content at some point that doesn't necessarily talk about race or social issues, but Greg Foreman never does content that doesn't talk about race or social issues.
Right. All right, so that's pretty much the end of the video. But before we go, I wanted to do something that I never really do, and we're going to look at Greg Foreman's front page. Y'all, this is his front page. Rob, when's the last time you've been on his front page?
Oh man, I haven't been for a long time. This will be the first time in a long time.
Yeah, so this is Greg Foreman's front page. Yeah, so you can see he has 707,000 plus subscribers. All that grift money. But listen, this is literally all of it. Let's count this up, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos in the last day.
Man, he making dough.
Like I told you before we started, he records about 5 videos a day.
That's wild. Well, when the quality is so low and there's very few edits, I guess
right,
makes sense. He's got an efficient process.
Now, this is the one right here I was telling you. We're not going to play it, but this is the one I was telling you about when I said, look at this thumbnail. He got his tongue stuck out like a city bitch.
Wow. Praising
Ron the Snowflake. And it says, I want to see more of this. And in case y'all don't notice the video where that black guy was there calling out Ron the Snowflake for what he, about what happened down in Jacksonville. And of course, he thinks he has a win. One thing y'all got to understand about Greg Foreman and people like him is that whenever there's an L to be held, they will praise that L as if it's a win. And they will polish that L and put it out there like they've won something.
Facts.
It's the weirdest thing.
Very disingenuous, but comical at the same time.
And also this one right here, when Ramen Noodles was having that debate with that anchor on MSNBC, I would highly suggest people watch that if they haven't done so, because that anchor grilled Ramen Noodles. He actually made Ramen Noodles kind of squirm a little bit, which is something we really or rarely ever see.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing. I haven't had a chance to because there's been so much other stuff coming up that I've been covering, but eventually I got a long stream about Ramaswamy coming up, and that's going to be covered, that interview between him and that NBC News anchor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But another reason I wanted to come onto his page too, and I don't even have to scroll that far down because it's fairly recent, because it's something that you've talked about. It's something I'm going to eventually talk about as well if the video doesn't go up before this one does, was about what's going on in New York and Chicago with those south of the Bordarians. And if you look through his front page, he has nothing up there about it.
Because he's a race hustler.
Nothing. And we briefly kind of mentioned it when we was going over through the video and the crimes that they're committing up there as well. I don't see not one video on his page talking about that, and all of that happened within the last couple of days. Yep. So when you think about it, if he was going to talk about it, it would have been in these first maybe 3 or 4 rows.
Yep, he's not planning on talking about it.
Right.
He might see this video.
The only thing that he does have up there about it is this one about here when it says Eric Adams goes off on illegal immigrants destroying New York City.
But
I can imagine the spin that he gave to that.
Yeah, and that's actually something that went out on a memo for conservatives to talk about, to try to spin so that they can do the same thing that they always do. See, even a Democrat agrees with us. Like, it's just the same corny, intellectually dishonest nonsense that they do.
Right. But yeah, I just wanted people to get, to see, get an idea of what you will see if you go over to his page, even though me and Rob just spent like over an hour going over that particular video. But yeah, this is his front page. Like, and by the time this video goes up, he's going to have more nonsense.
Oh, yeah. And we'll probably have recorded some more responses.
Like I said, easy content, easy work.
Facts.
But yeah, that's pretty much going to conclude this. We got a little over an hour in. Like I told you, when I always tell how long we're going to go based on the length of the video. I said 13 minutes. Yeah, we're going to be here a while.
Oh, right.
But yeah, Rob, you got anything else you want to add?
No, same old thing. Thank you for inviting me back onto the platform. Hopefully you guys got some insight and enjoyed our breakdown of this reaction video about Greg Foreman and some of the nonsense that he says. It should make it a lot easier for you guys to predict the kind of things that these kind of people say in response to social things that occur. But you guys know, if there's any other type of content that you guys want to see me and Torian react to, make sure you get at us and we'll get it up.
Definitely. And also be sure, if you haven't done so already, to go ahead and subscribe to Rob's channel, Blacklight Revelations. I'll leave the link, or I might have him tagged in the title, so you can just click on the link and it'll take you to his channel. And make sure you go and subscribe to his channel over there. But with that being said, we are about to get up out of here. Thanks everyone for coming through. Thanks to everybody who listen. And make sure y'all, again, if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you have the bell clicked twice to be notified whenever I upload a new video or go live. Be safe and be one.
Be one.